I am told that in Extremadura, the westernmost province of Spain, vast lakes, like fingers between the folded mountains, stretch as far as your hand when you hold it up in front of your face. With one of the lowest population densities in Europe, the silence here is palpable. Imagine how quiet your elbow is when you are asleep at night. It is quiet like that. Occasionally, I suppose, an aeroplane must fly overhead on its way out west to some tropical country like the United States or Oregon or some other beautiful island paradise like that. Although, admittedly, thought of this crushes your spirit somewhat, to be reminded that there are places further west, further even than this, and perhaps with an even lower population density. In the Extremadura, there is a stagnant lake called Modern Love. At its most modern point, the lake is thick with blue-green algae, which encrusts the unfortunate shore in a permanent carpet of phlebotomous biting flies, meaning that even the downwardly mobile can afford to resort here. My ex used to like it here. He would go surfing on the fly carpet, and then afterwards, when he couldn't take it no more, we would look at swelling bites all over his stupid body, as though they were cloud-topped peaks, and we were really high up market, in Swiss Alps, looking down over a noble mountain range. That was the best, worst holiday I can remember. It is said that this lake, Modern Love, is one of the lowest places on earth. Although I don't personally feel that this reputation is entirely justified, I happen to know that certain people are much, much lower than this. My ex-husband, for example, was really low, and so were some of his friends. But I don't say this out of spite. I am not so resentful as you might imagine from looking at me. I am also really low. People who are low still find ways of getting what they want, and we can hardly be blamed for that. I like to sunbathe next to the motorway. I never sacrifice my style for no one. I get down low as I can make myself. Passing children practice their adult intolerances on my head, throw down curses at me, set fires, hurl rocks and things. But down here, where I am, I feel as safe as I were up in the stars. When I wake in the morning, or if I wake, who can say? I will haul my old self down to the village bar to be disconsolate and dissolute while everyone else gets ready to go to work. "7 a.m. is rush hour at the bar. A fleet of tractors is moored outside, and it is a struggle to get in. All the men are drinking brandy and watching the news on a new giant widescreen TV. From what I can make out, they found a dead Englishman at the bottom of a ravine last night, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows where he came from, except England, obviously. That makes 3 dead Englishmen they found this week. Despite the self-evident tragedy and everything, I get lost imagining the scene. The way the body must have been laid there. The way the limbs in particular must have looked when those kids Instagrammed the morbid group selfie which alerted the authorities to his tragic passing. A body in the landscape. Then I can't help but watch the newsreader's captivating lips. I watch the way she gently mouths one word before suddenly releasing another, discharging their meaning onto the crowd of elderly men whose tractors noisily wait, filling the narrow street outside with a thick cloud of unbreathable diesel exhaust. On my way out, as I squeeze my way rather drunkenly between the men who crowd so thickly I can hardly see my way out, I happen to glance at the village notice board, where I see a solitary post in English in amongst the posts written in Catalan, with advertising second-hand cars, firewood, advanced yoga courses, peaches, things, other things, and still other things. The English post I read aloud, so as to attract the attention of any other persons who understand the contents of what I say. Does anyone know the significance of using a child's doll in the countryside as some kind of a marker or sign? We noticed last harvest that bits of toy doll, the torso, head, the limbs, the feet, etc., would appear and disappear, as if on a schedule up at the turn-off at kilometre 13. We saw them other places too, quite often where the housing was of a high class. We wondered if some organised gang was marking its territory, like the locations of all the housings worth breaking into. We thought a bunch of things, but then we are like that. Maybe we dreamed it all up in our heads. But today, and since the scary appearance of a doll's head on a garden post at the entrance to our housing last night, some strange man drove onto our land while we were working at the far end and fortunately out of sight, where he then, in apparent haze, placed a broken doll on the roof of his white transit van before skulking off in a blood fury into the fields behind to do heaven knows what. He didn't appear to have no weapon as far as we could tell. He didn't exactly look like a killer. Everybody knows killers all look exactly the same. Exactly the same, like apples, except they grow on killer trees, and they all look exactly the same. We waited ages for him to come back, and when he did, he promptly put the doll back in the van, and then pulled away at top speed like a complete maniac. His foot must have been pressed as hard to the floor as possible in first gear, crashing into trees and buildings and farming equipment before slamming off the road and slaloming down the rocky mountainside itself in a cloud of smoke and dust and bits of unfortunate goats, as though he didn't need a road to drive on at all, that roads are for fucking idiots. I could not tell, but thought perhaps that this post itself was a marker or a sign of some kind, because several people shuffled over in my direction, albeit hesitant to cross the threshold and approach. It's as though we are divided by an invisible field. That's just the way of some people, I guess. You speak the same language, and yet you don't speak the same language at all. People find it awkward to approach, or even find it awkward to know how to receive somebody else's approach. So much of society goes by the wayside, while the main current of our company happens in our heads all alone, and transitory in the extreme.